threat of disaster is never pleasant.
Welcome to the Casual Preppers podcast.
These safety measures are essential.
The only place for prepping, survival, and entertainment.
This will be your source of survival instructions and information. Every member of the family must be coached in the business of survival.
Here are your hosts, Cam and Kobe.
We've been practicing our EMP solar event noises.
I'm not very good at it.
Which would be, you know, inaudible.
You wouldn't hear a thing.
But we were like, the boom.
That's what it sounded like in a movie.
It would make the event way cooler.
It totally would, yeah.
So, but
we're freaking stoked though because we're talking about prepper porn today.
Yeah, we are. This
Yeah.
is one of the coolest things that I hope never happen.
Yeah, definitely don't want it to happen.
But yeah, so this is what's creepy because this could happen at any point and you could just wake up to a silent world, like no power, no internet, your watch doesn't work, your phone doesn't work, your lights don't turn on.
This actually is not sounding bad.
Fridge is warm.
Okay, that pisses me off. Everything until you got to the fridge, I was like, all right,
yeah,
I'm fine.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, this isn't sci-fi, man. This is something that can really actually happen, and it has happened in the past. And so, yeah, we're going to be talking about an EMP attack. We're going to be talking about CME. I love that coronal mass ejection. And just what it can do and how the world will be after this sort of thing happens.
Yeah.
It won't be good, I'll tell you that.
Ain't going to be great.
So, and the big question, you know, could a single burst from the sun or a weapon today ruin modern civilization?
It's already pretty much ruined.
It's ruined. Could it ruin it? Could it be more ruiner?
Yeah, more ruinder, for sure. I do have to tell you about BattleBox, though. It is the monthly subscription box full of solid gear for adventure seekers, survivalists, outdoor enthusiasts, and casual preppers. Each month, BattleBox sends you the coolest selection of hand-picked outdoor survival and everyday carry gear, all valued at far more than what you'd normally pay. You never know what's in the next box, but here's a sampling of what users received this month. The Bare Bones Railroad Lantern.
Wow, that's cool.
So if you're working on a railroad at night, you're set, boys. And then we got the ThyroSafe Radiation Protection Potassium Iodide tablets. Awesome. Those things are always great to have in your kit. All this badassness starts at just $34.99 per month. They've shipped over 1 million boxes and won Best Subscription Box of 2020. Our listeners get 15% off when you sign up at battlebox.com/casualpreppers. Get your first BattleBox and 15% off at battlebox.com/casualpreppers. Cam and I went out recently, a couple weeks ago, and we were testing out a whole bunch of gear camping, and like everything came from BattleBox.
It's all BattleBox.
It's all BattleBox. Like I just,
such an awesome mix.
Really
of stuff and gear that always gets used.
Definitely does. So let's talk about EMPs. Cameron, if you're an EMP, what is it? It is an intense burst of electromagnetic energy that can instantly fry electronics and cripple power grids. Does not sound great.
No, it doesn't.
So, like, imagine an invisible shockwave traveling at the speed of light, which is pretty quick.
Can't imagine it. You can't see it.
Can't see it. Destroying anything with circuits in its path. And pretty much everything we use today has circuits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everything. So there are several types of EMPs, and we want to go over those. And one of the scary ones is a nuclear EMP or HEMP, the hemp.
That's
baby.
cool.
Yeah. So this is caused by detonating a nuclear weapon high
in
the atmosphere. Yeah, it's not great. We don't like it. They get a nuclear weapon. They detonate it way above in the atmosphere, maybe 30 to 400 kilometers, which could be 1,000 miles. We don't know. We don't know that. What
you can't convert it.
Nobody can convert it. And it produces 3 different components, basically 3 different pulses from the nuke. Yeah, it sounds just like that. So we got the E1. This is
disappointing.
I was like,
here it goes. What?
Until like you were just stuttering. That's all it sounded like. Then we have the E1. So this is the first pulse. It's fast, intense burst that damages microelectronics instantly. And that's the one that just, boom, fries all that crap.
Yeah.
Then we have E2. This is the second pulse, similar to lightning. But if you have like surge protection, it may actually partially shield you from this second pulse. Then we have E3. This is the third pulse. long-duration geomagnetic effect inducing powerful currents in power lines. So this goes through all in power lines, and this will damage the transformers.
Toast the grid.
Yeah, this is the bad one for like overall with the grid, and we're going to talk a lot about that because that is very vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah. A single high-altitude nuclear EMP could disable electronics, get this, over an entire continent.
Ugh.
So if they place it just right as far as like over the continent and height, and it's big enough, literally can take out the entire United States if it wanted to.
Yeah. Nobody gets burned or incinerated.
No.
But just slow burn.
We don't have like
slow death.
the T2
That's what's crazy.
The scene
On the chain link
fence. No, just all your shit goes down.
Yeah.
Like right there. And
So
so
that
that's
seems better and nicer, but
yeah,
the
it's not
slow, horrible life afterwards.
Yeah, most people would rather be in that burning chain link
I'd rather
fence.
just be right underneath it.
That's and that's what most people say, right?
Yeah.
Just let me die.
As long as if
instantly.
I'm either completely out of range,
Yeah.
and see it on the news, or right underneath,
Or right
it.
underneath
You
it.
don't want to be.
There's
in
only
the,
two
like,
options.
You don't want to be in one of those rings.
The midway point is not good
No,
at all. Yeah.
no.
So then we have non-nuclear EMP weapons. So these are like smaller, localized devices. These are designed to disable electronics in a targeted area. So like they're used often tactically. You know, like we got an enemy command center, we got an airport, we got this little piece of critical infrastructure, but they do have like limited range. This isn't like an EMP blast. This is what you always see on movies. Hey, we're gonna hit EMP and we're gonna take out the
roll a
electronics.
grenade over. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, and then it's over. I don't know like how often those types of things are used or how effective
I don't
they
know.
are.
Like I saw some report recently that's a big focus with military.
Is it really?
It's like EMP stuff. 'Cause,
Great.
I mean, you can render a ship completely
Yeah.
disabled out in the ocean.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, man. And then we have the ever popular coronal mass ejection or solar flare.
It's a cool.
This comes from the sun.
Cool
And
name.
you cannot control the sun as much as you would like to. There is no way to control it. It's going to do what it's going to do.
Yeah.
So unlike man-made EMPs, these are natural cosmic events originating from that big ball of fire in the sky. And these suckers, you can't really predict them.
No. You know,
There's
ever
a
since,
little- yeah.
Ever since we started this podcast, I don't know where or why, but I get these spam emails of
Yeah.
like, there's a bit more activity from the sun.
I
Like,
get those
watch
too.
out for your,
Yeah.
be careful with your devices outside. and
Yeah, they
stuff. I'm
can
like,
see
what?
when there's like more solar activity and less solar
But
activity.
they can't say that it's going to send
Yeah.
a wave that knocks power out.
They don't know necessarily, right? So, what is it? A coronal mass ejection, or CME. It's a massive burst of solar wind and magnetic fields ejected from the sun's corona. So it's just spewing garbage from the surface of the sun.
Spewing this.
Spewing this, yeah. So basically, when it's aimed at the Earth, so it can go off into space in random directions, but sometimes it can come and hit Earth. And it'll collide with our magnetosphere.
No, nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that to happen. So this will trigger geomagnetic storms for us down here. So what are the effects? Like what happens if that does actually happen? Well, it's not great. Okay. It disrupts satellite operations. If you didn't know, satellites pretty much run the entire damn Earth.
Seriously.
Everything comes from a satellite, which GPS.
You're listening to this using satellite in some way.
It's a Spotify satellite probably up in the sky. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, GPS goes bye-bye, and that means you cannot get to Costco. You have no idea how to get there.
Yeah.
Even though you've been there 100
No one
times.
knows how to do it now.
You've been there 100 times, you don't know how to get
Yeah.
there. Radio communications go all haywire and funky dunk, so good luck, with that. It also causes voltage instability, and you don't want your voltage to be unstable.
No, you don't.
Unstable. Power surges, again, not great, and transformer damage in electrical grids.
Not like Optimus Prime.
It's not Optimus Prime, no.
But
We're not talking about Tesseract
those
and all that stuff.
transformers, man, and I'll talk a little bit about
Yeah.
those. That
Is a
is
problem.
a huge complication.
Is a problem. It also creates beautiful, bright auroras visible far from the poles. So usually you're only getting the northern lights if you're up near the poles, but when these things happen, you start getting them crazy, funky skies all over
That's crazy.
the Earth. Which
At
is,
least that'll be cool.
yeah, that's the one thing you can look
It
forward
probably
to.
look really bright because there's no lights on anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Huh? Yeah. So Like, has this ever happened before? Hell yeah, it has happened before. How about back in 1859?
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, you remember that. So the largest recorded solar storm in modern history was the Carrington event. We're going to talk more about this, but just a quick note, if the Carrington event happened today, it would basically destroy everything. We would be down. So that's the thing that scares me the most. Like, I know the nuclear weapons are pretty scary, but
there's some, this one's completely uncontrolled and unpredictable.
Ain't much you can do, boy. So we talked about the grid real quick. You know, the thing with this is that most modern high voltage transformers, these suckers are custom built. They weigh hundreds of tons each. That's very large. I'm not putting that into Tacoma. And they don't just keep like 4 or 5 or 6 extras in the warehouse downtown. No. So these things are manufactured overseas, a lot of times in China.
Yeah, that's what's crazy.
Like, you know what I mean? There's minimal domestic production of this stuff happening here in the United States. Pretty crazy, pretty scary. So that means about 6 to 18 months per transformer to get replacements.
6 to 18 months.
6 to 18 months.
For one.
And that's in normal conditions.
Yeah.
That's when you got
they
power.
Can ship it and like drive it across the country.
This
or
isn't post Carrington event level CMEs. This is just normal everyday people doing their job, and they're not going to be able to do that. So if we did have a Carrington level solar storm, it would basically
forget your transformers.
Forget it.
They're gone.
They're gone. So you're looking at years long grid down crises.
Yeah.
And that means a lot of crazy things that we'll talk about probably.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So now we understand clearly how it all works
and
what exactly, but the question is what exactly would it do to everything in the world we live? So obviously the infrastructure that we live in would collapse completely. So power grids, water systems, transportation, banking, communications, and I'll go into a little bit of detail on each of those. I mean, they would all be done for.
Yeah.
An EMP or solar event would take it out. And we're not talking like, oh, my power's out. Like, I'll run a generator for 4 or 5 days, and then they should be able to, get things back online. No, months to years.
And your generator
Can
don't
you
work.
imagine not having and then there really isn't any other option. You're like, well, we're all in a big pickle.
Yeah, unless you have a generator in a Faraday cage, you're screwed.
Yeah. Screwed. And there may be some vehicles, there's some, it's a little unclear exactly what would work, but it would cripple the system.
Mm-hmm.
So the transformers, like you said, I mean, manufacturing a new one takes months to years, and then to get it here and to get it put back in, and that's one of thousands that would be destroyed. It just isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And then the SCADA, is that how you say that?
Yeah,
SCADA
so,
system. Industrial controls for dams, sewage, utilities, the damn pool waterfall. It's all going to fail.
Yeah.
You're going to have dam sewage and pool water mixed in with your water systems. And
that means everything's sewage at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. We those things that just happen in the background that make life so convenient.
Yeah.
Like you don't realize it'll all just be done. And so you'll be drinking poo water in the dark, looking at the northern lights that are down in, Alabama.
The poo water makes it less romantic.
It does. So the transportation aspect of it is going to be a huge mess. We rely heavily on transportation, not just for ourselves, for groceries and for gas delivery and all that stuff. Get my gas delivered.
There
should be a DoorDash for gas.
Yeah, they actually do that. Actually,
do they really?
Yeah, you can.
I'm low. Can you bring me 5 gallons?
You get a service where they come nightly and just fill up your tank.
No kidding.
Yeah,
I didn't know about that.
I don't know. Yeah, I've seen it. I don't know if they have it locally here, but I have seen that before.
Kind of makes sense in some of those areas.
A lot of times, companies will do that. For all their company vehicles.
They should. Got a gas truck.
Hell yeah.
Now we're out.
Now I gotta call someone else. I
gotta come fill me up so I can fill these guys.
Gotta call the competitors to come fill us up.
Don't worry, they'll fill us up tonight.
Yeah.
We fill everybody else up. But yeah, most post 1980s vehicles, they rely on microchips. Got tons of microchips. Most post 1980s vehicles. Tons of electronics in there.
Yeah.
The part I hate the most, even about my truck that's 1977, is still the electrical parts in it. It's the lights and the wiring. But compound that complication by 100,000 with the new vehicles. It's all computer driven.
Good luck getting that Tesla out the driveway.
Seriously, the electronic cars, man, they're done for. And then, like, that means no one gets to work. No systems work. There's no delivery of groceries. There's no gas trucks filling up anybody.
God dang it.
It's a big deal. And then, speaking of gas, the gas stations, they can't pump that out.
No.
The pumps are toast.
Yeah.
So any manual way of filling up a car, if it even works, is going to take forever, and you're going to have a huge line.
Yeah.
It's just the whole system kind of comes to a halt. It's just crazy. Not to mention, the food supply chain thing. Like, most of us live on going to the grocery store or doing grocery orders at least once a week, probably several times a week.
Yeah.
And the grocery store shelves depend on transportation, like trucks bringing more in each and every day or once a week at least.
And then, like, where they're getting their stuff relies on different trucks bringing in other stuff.
And then the ships. And then the spaceships. And then the satellites. And
it's
then
the whole thing. Everybody's all messed up.
Yeah. So it's crazy just to think power outage at a level like this, because it's like all the stuff stops. Everything stops. All the gear stop. So you know, the large grocery stores, like I said, they get restocked almost daily.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that'll be cleaned out, and then there's no more coming in.
They're always there putting chips out when I go.
Every time.
The Lay's guy's there every time I'm there.
He really
I don't know why. They're like
that
always
is
there.
the one that's always clogging up the hall.
It does
aisle.
seem like it, right?
Yeah, it's always the chip aisle.
Yeah.
I just avoid it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Smaller grocery stores, you know, a few times a week it's refilled, and that's where everybody's going to go. So first off, people are going to get nervous. They're going to go get their groceries, walk down or ride a bike down.
Yeah.
And they're going to get there as much as they can buy, and there's not going to be any more.
Yeah.
And that immediately becomes a huge problem. And then think about, like, the ongoing food production, farming, diesel-powered equipment. I mean, all of it now is becoming more and more dependent on GPS-driven or, like,
all those combines,
all automated.
They're all automated these days, right?
So you see, like,
we're almost to Interstellar.
All the
so funny. Thought about the same shit. It's like that's what I think of. Like, we're almost there, man.
We are. It's all just automated. And so you don't get any more. I mean, dairy farms, there's no more milk produced.
Yeah.
The tractors to harvest, to plant, and all of that stop working. And then you can't ship that food. Whatever's there and growing now in mass amounts, it can't be moved. So it just gets wasted.
The farmer just tries to eat as much as he can. You know?
But yeah, precision farming nowadays is a huge thing, and all of that will be done for
sure.
And then, you know, growing indoors in the greenhouses, it's all controlled. It's a controlled environment agriculture, and so it's all automated and computer controlled. So as you can see, food will stop happening unless you know you have a garden out back that is very successful, and no one has that.
No, not many.
And then you've got your communication issues, internet and cellular. Done.
This is where I think
cause everybody to lose their mind.
This is where I think the biggest problem honestly comes from, because you can't get information about what's happening.
No.
Like, you don't know how long it's going to be.
And to fix and repair and figure out what to do, there's no communication happening. So it's just like everything stops. It's crazy.
Yeah, how are you going to get information? Like, think about us out here.
Like,
we're 2 hours
are we all out of power? Like,
Yeah.
how is the next town out of power? Are my parents okay? Like, you're not going to be able to communicate that way.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Unless you know, we're smart and have your ham license and know how to use a ham radio, and it was in a Faraday cage.
Yeah, good luck.
So,
There's like 8 people on Earth that have that whole setup. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So, I mean, these strong currents will knock out all forms of communication for the most part. And I mean, it'll overload and fry sensitive electronic components.
That's right.
Okay? Yeah. But yeah, communication networks, destroys routers, switches, servers, base stations, even fiber optic control systems. They're all done for. So no internet, no communication, no text messages, no calling. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And then again, you'd mentioned this, like satellites, they will likely be interrupted, especially if it's a CME. I mean, they'll all just be toast. And then, man, you can't get anywhere.
I wonder if they can somehow, they couldn't. Yeah, there's no way to like harden those assets up there.
I don't know.
Low Earth orbit,
They seem like
I would
they're
assume.
they'll be destroyed by rain.
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, there's no rain up there.
I know that's why you know what I mean.
But yeah, I know what you mean.
That
yeah.
kind of equipment's so delicate. It's
It
like
is, yeah.
they can't put anything else on there and increase weight. So it's like
it's
just like a piece of paper floating.
I know,
Somehow
yeah.
it's sending signals.
Black Night Satellite.
Yeah, that.
That's right.
But yeah, so you're going to have a loss of communication. You're going to have food production that stops. You're going to have all of your utilities that are now down, and then you're going to start having problems with that, like food or the water being contaminated, and what a mess.
Contaminated.
It's
got amoebas in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then let's say you do drink those amoebas and you get sick and you need to go to the hospital. Well, there's a huge mess there.
Yeah, there
because there's a lot of communication that happens in hospitals, or should.
Should happen. Yeah.
And so that is interrupted. All prescriptions now they're all done by e-script. Like it's rare for you to ever have a written script.
Like
and
you
if
don't
you
write it on
do,
a pad.
the pharmacy's like, something's wrong here.
Yeah,
he stole this script pad.
Who's trying to steal Percocet?
Yep, exactly. And then all of your information, all of your weird diseases and your medicines and your reactions, all that stuff is gone because it's all been in a digital computer, or it's been in a digital chart.
That's all right. And they can't get denied for insurance in the future.
Yeah. Obama says you can. It's fine. But that I always look at that at work. I'm like, man, we are like completely, like, even when we have our computer system go down, it's like we can see patients, but then if nobody's charting it or writing it down, like it just doesn't, you don't get the same information because we're not used to that system.
Nobody knows I looked in your ear.
So it's crazy. Like,
didn't really happen if it's not written down.
Yeah. So there's a frenzy at the hospital trying to figure out how to get charting back up or how to pull records. And then you have the inpatients, and then you have people coming to try and be seen at the ER. It's going to be overwhelmed like immediately.
People on life support basically just dead.
Yeah. Exactly.
They die. They're dead.
My pacemaker's acting up.
Yeah.
Well, it's not working.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody with a pacemaker.
It's crazy what kind of stuff.
They're dead.
And there's a lot of that, like CPAP machines, all that. People depend on electronics to keep them going.
Jeez, all us cyborgs are just going to die.
They are, exactly. Baby boomers are done.
Yeah, they're all screwed, man. They got all the money, but they going to be dead.
Exactly.
Take that.
And if the generators actually do come back, or, do actually fire up, they're only going to last a few days. So it's like, not going to work.
But they ain't going to fire up.
They ain't going to fire up.
They ain't going to fire up.
And then let's say, okay, we're going to go to a cash system. How much cash do you have on hand? You
Not
can't
a
get
lot.
it from the bank because, one, it doesn't even exist in the bank half the time. It's just numbers that are in a computer system. And then actual cash, ATMs are down. Banking systems, they can't even open the register.
No, you can't.
It's just
You'd have
crazy.
to crack open the ATM with like a crowbar. And that's the only way
And
you're
that
going
will happen within an hour.
First
for
30
anybody in
minutes,
town.
they're all cracked open.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So you can't purchase goods. I mean, unless you have something to trade, you're dead in the water.
Like your body.
And then, and just imagine, this makes me sick to think, like, all that money that you've worked towards and invested could possibly just be gone forever.
Oh,
Never access it again.
Never.
It's just gone. Digital.
Yeah.
So crazy. So obviously there's going to be, with all of that, huge social unrest, looting, violence, desperate migration. People are going to be like, I ain't living in this, city center, and they'll leave and attack people out in the farmlands.
Good luck living in Phoenix.
So I know.
What are you
I
going
think
to do?
I actually mentioned that somewhere in this. Maybe it's the next one.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're in one of those environments that only exists because of the technology, like Phoenix, you're done.
You're toast. Like literally toast.
I would just, like you can't even try and get out of there.
No.
You just burn to death.
Yeah, just be dead.
Anyways, that's pretty complicated.
Sure it is. It's
So,
not going to be easy.
Think about those things.
I also want you to think about electrolyte deficiency. Because if you have an imbalance there, it can cause headaches, cramps, fatigue, and weakness. And as people who want to be prepared and ready for anything, the last thing you need is something that will slow you down when you need to be ready the most. That's why we at Casual Preppers have teamed up with Element. It is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing that you don't. We think Element is perfect for bug-out bags and EDC kits because it contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. Just that sweet spot, Cam. Sweet spot. Casual Preppers listeners can get a free Element sample pack of the most popular drink flavors when you make any purchase through our exclusive Casual Preppers link. This offer may be claimed by first-time and returning Element customers. But you got to go to the link. That's the only way to get it, Cam. You can't just go to the website and say, I want it, Casual Preppers said to get it. No, you got to go through the link.
I'm here.
Send
it to me.
Give me my salty drinks right now. No, you got to go through drinklmnt.com/casual preppers, and then you can get it. First time, third time, 100th time.
That's awesome.
Element.
Yeah.
Go get it.
In this scenario, it's going to make that contaminated poo dam water taste pretty good.
Damn good. Yes. So how real is this, Cameron? Well, we mentioned earlier about the Carrington event, 1859, long time ago. The largest recorded solar storm in human history, recorded. I'm sure there were bigger ones, right? So, at this time, British astronomer, his name was Richard Carrington. He witnessed an intense white light solar flare on the sun's surface, September 1st, 1859. I don't know what Dick's doing just staring at the sun. Seems like a weird thing to do, but that's what he's doing.
My left eye's burned out. Keep looking.
Still got the right one. Dick's still looking.
Trying to wait for something good to happen.
Yeah, Dick's figuring it out. So within 17 hours, there was a CME that reached Earth.
That's it?
Yeah, it was only 17 hours.
Wow.
Shit was going quick.
So in that time period, it's like your pocket watch don't work.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
some light bulbs.
The pocket watches didn't even have circuits.
That's true. They
were all
fine.
mechanical, right? So telegraph systems worldwide experienced massive electrical surges that overwhelmed early electrical infrastructure. Like, that's the thing. At this time, that was basically the only thing that was running on electricity in any way were telegraph lines. The operators reported receiving electric shocks when touching their equipment, which is...
Ow. I touched my equipment and got shocked.
Stop touching your equipment, boy.
Get your hands off your equipment.
You them boys have been touching their equipment? My tool shed. Telegraph lines threw sparks, igniting small fires on telegraph paper and operator desks.
Oh, it's gone.
Crap. Some telegraph systems continued operating even when disconnected from their batteries, powered solely by the geomagnetically induced currents in the lines.
That's
like
crazy.
ghost telegraphs, basically, were happening here, which was kind of crazy. And there were auroras visible at latitudes far lower than normal, reaching near the equator.
Wow.
Places like Cuba and Hawaii were seeing the northern lights. It's pretty nuts, dude.
That's pretty cool.
In the northeastern
We
United
could just
States,
get that part.
I know, it'd be real cool.
That'd be awesome.
In the northeastern United States, people could read newspapers by the bright aurora light alone.
Wow.
Go outside at midnight and read the paper by like weird glowing
That's pretty
lights.
cool.
That's cool. In the Rocky Mountains, miners reportedly woke up in the middle of the night believing it was dawn because the sky was so illuminated. I guess I gotta go eat some rocks.
It's so crazy to me that they didn't. Nobody went off from like a clock.
Is there a watch
That's
anyway?
right.
Yeah, that was a quick nap.
Felt like I got an hour's sleep.
Yeah. Telegraph service outages were reported across Europe and North America. Operators in Boston and Portland maintained communication by disconnecting their batteries and then just using the electric currents induced by the storm.
In there. It's so weird.
So weird. But today, if a Carrington-level event happened, it would not be so subtle.
You wouldn't be out reading the newspaper.
No, it would destroy satellites and GPS networks. It would fry sensitive microelectronics in orbit and on the ground, cause voltage instability and transformer failures in power grids globally. It would lead to economic damage estimated in the trillions of dollars, and I assume that's actually probably even higher than that.
I don't know what comes after trillion.
Oh, cajillions of dollars.
Gugatillion. Wasn't there like Guga or something like that?
Google tillion. Yeah. It would result in months to years of widespread blackout before full grid recovery is possible. So anyways,
Count, that is a mess.
let's pray that don't happen, boys and girls. Have you heard of Starfish Prime, everyone? This was
Googleplex is the highest.
Googleplex, yeah. Starfish Prime, 1962. The U.S. conducted a high-altitude nuclear test 250 miles above the Pacific Ocean in 1962. Cool thing was, they had an EMP effects 900 miles away in Hawaii. It knocked out hundreds of streetlights and damaged electrical systems. It's like they do that 900 miles away, ruin a luau in Hawaii. How crazy is that? They have no idea what's going on. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Didn't know the government's just like randomly blowing up stuff in the atmosphere. It proved that nuclear EMPs can have wide-reaching impacts far from the detonation site, led to an understanding of how devastating a large-scale, high-altitude EMP could be to modern civilization.
Freaking nukes, man.
So we know, we've tested it. We know this is what's going to happen. Can you imagine all like the little boats out on the ocean under that thing too? Probably just fried them all and they died and we have no idea. 1989, I didn't know about this. There was a blackout in Quebec. This is up in Canada, Cameron. This was caused by a solar storm far smaller than Carrington. It had a geomagnetic storm inducing currents that overloaded the Hydro-Quebec power grid. Power cut to 6 million people in under 2 minutes.
Wow.
I didn't know about that one. I didn't know there's that many people up there. Transformers damaged as far south as New Jersey from this. The power was restored within 9 hours, but it kind of exposed that, grid vulnerability to solar storms. So that's a little bit scary. Did you know this, Cam? If this would have hit, this would have been the craziest thing ever. 2012. We almost got hit by a gigantic CME.
No.
Could you imagine if it would have happened and all the people that were saying 2012 was the apocalypse and then this hits?
All perfect timing.
Oh, it would have been perfect. But NASA confirmed.
I'll
do it. NASA confirmed a Carrington level CME narrowly missed the Earth by about 9 days. So if it would have been 9 days earlier or 9 days later, it would have hit us like dead on.
Wow.
And it would have just like taken everything out, just like I talked about. It was close, man.
That's crazy. I didn't know about that one.
Yep, that's pretty nuts.
And they're all lucky, all you listeners.
Yeah, I know.
Y'all lucky.
Y'all lucky you're still alive.
You can still hear this.
Yeah.
Like 4 years later, this podcast came out.
That's right.
Lucky for you.
Lucky for you. The U.S. EMP Commission has repeatedly warned that a large-scale EMP attack could obviously disable the power grid for months to years. And this is probably the most crazy statistic of them all. The EMP Commission said up to 90% of the U.S. population would die within a year.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And mostly due to those...
our enemies know this.
Yeah, secondary effects, like starvation and disease and just widespread societal breakdown. So that's kind of crazy. And obviously North Korea is continually, they're always like, we got EMPs we're going to hit you with, and they don't. But that's the thing that, people are scared of.
I still remember in nuclear war scenario where it talked about that satellite that North Korea put up.
That's right.
And they're like, had all these weights and measurements that they didn't know what it was. And it's up there floating around.
Could that be
something? Maybe it could be a nuke that they could center over the U.S.
Exactly.
Scary.
A little bit scary. Yep.
So what is the prepper response plan? That's what's most important. And it's a tough one. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now. I've got my whole house covered in steel.
That's right.
Beams over everything.
I got a giant microwave covers the entire house.
Just a whole lot that's just under a Faraday.
Yeah.
Well, no, you guys are.
Maybe you can just do it like a big circus tent over your house.
That You
know what I mean? Like when they're spraying for termites or whatever. They put that big circus tent over houses.
Yeah.
But it could just be like a Faraday.
Yeah. It might work. So obviously, no matter what, in every scenario, you got to have the water and the food.
Yeah.
Minimum of 30 days plus filtration. You need a lot more for this event.
Yeah.
But
Good luck.
you still work towards that. Get that 30-day supply of water on hand, ready to use. And then on top of that, you're going to want your Sawyer minis because of those dams that are rupturing and spilling poop water. Okay. And then food, at least 3 months. Then you can come up with a plan or figure out ways to collect more food if there even is an ability to do so. At least you can smolder out slowly by eating a few granola bars until the end.
Yeah.
But 3 months, that's the minimum. At least start with 2 weeks and then move up to a month to 3 months.
Yeah.
And then with cooking, have a lot of different means to cook. You're not going to be using your electric stovetop or your microwave. So manual grain mills, rocket stoves, propane camp stoves, things like that.
Yeah.
They don't rely on a lot of electronics. They just start on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then Faraday protection. So there are some options that you can do now to potentially protect some of your devices. So, your small, useful electronic devices. We've talked about this before of like, maybe you have an old iPad or an old Android tablet or something like that. You could store things on there. Maybe you have a prepper disk or something like that.
Why not?
Put it into a bag that's made specifically to block, they're basically a Faraday bag that you can buy.
We've gotten many from BattleBox.
Yep, and we've tested them. So what I've done is I'll turn like screen record on my phone and I'll put it down in the bag and seal it and then open it back up and it'll show you like all of your Bluetooth and your wireless signal, all that shuts off. Then okay, I've got some protection. Hopefully this is enough. And then put it in your basement, even better. Basements actually offer some protection from electromagnetic interference. So it is a little better than nothing to have it stored in the basement, but the floor and all that's wood, so it still can penetrate. But if you really want to protect things, get a bag or a cage, put your stuff in it, put it in the basement. Vehicles, and so this is where it gets a little tricky to know just exactly what'll happen. You're safe if you have an old vehicle that's 80 in the 80s or older, because there's just so little, if any, electronic devices in there other than your wiring. So they probably would still start up, maybe. Might not be a bad idea to have some spare parts like ignition modules, ECUs. I mean, mechanics probably going to have they're going to be lucky because
what was it that they switch out in War of the Worlds?
Solenoid.
The solenoid, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so maybe store a few of those like in War of the Worlds. Who knows?
Heck yeah.
And then so your bug out vehicle, you should make a plan now if your 2024 vehicle is rendered useless and that's your only plan. Like, have a backup plan. It's like, we're going to take our bikes, or we're going to have I have an old vehicle that I hope still works. I have an old RV. Maybe it'll still work right now. But understand how to keep those running, have spare parts for them. Older carburetors, like, know how to adjust them. We had to learn that recently when we went camping. Just know what you're doing and have the parts to replace it, because you could potentially still have an operational vehicle, which would be really nice. And then communications, ham radios. If you have one protected, small handheld, throw it in a bag. Hopefully you have some education on that. Preferably you have your license, because then you know how to operate those, because that might be the gold standard, the main way people are communicating after one of these events. Backup power. So solar, they are filled with electronics themselves, but if you have them protected, sun's still going to be there. It may have just ruined your life, but it could also give you some power.
Save your life after.
But storing some of those solar powered, like either panels or built-in flashlights that have the little panels in them into a Faraday bag gives you that gives you some stored power to use on all of your broken devices.
Yeah, exactly.
Then generators, they're always useful. I mean, you could potentially like have one that still works. That would give you some ways to. It's always hard because you don't know what kind of electronics you're still going to have, but you still need to power a ham radio and you still need to power your CPAP machine. So
exactly.
And then security and defense, neighborhoods are going to get crazy. So build a trust in your network neighborhood if you do that, or make sure you have ways to secure your home.
I doubt any of my neighbors trust me.
Firearms still work.
They should.
So this is where you firearm lovers are going to be super excited. I mean, we have firearms, but that's going to be a huge part of self-defense. And then items to reinforce entry points, your doors, your windows, install alert systems. They're going to be like non-electronic types of alert systems. And then skills and knowledge are always going to get you ahead of some of those old ways of fire starting, water sourcing, gardening, animal husbandry. That stuff is going to be super important because you really don't have a grocery store anymore. You're going to be the only source of your food. And then, again, we always mention with all of these scenarios, like you really need to have some mental and emotional resilience.
Yeah,
practice total blackouts. Understand how much it'll affect your life and how to stay like safe and prepared and all that emotionally. It's kind of that's a hard one, but if you're not in a great place emotionally now, then don't worry about any of this that we've talked to you about.
Yeah, you'll be dead in a week.
You're gonna, you'll completely lose your mind
It's not
because
gonna be
everyone
easy.
will lose their minds.
For sure.
And then finances, have some cash on hand because, again, like I said, all the ATMs, the banks, you're not going to be able to get any money.
At least early on, that cash will be useful.
Yeah. And then you're going to move to bartering items. You know, silver coins, alcohol, ammo, cigarettes, tobacco, all
cards.
that. Pokemon cards. Yeah. That stuff's going to be useful because it could be what allows you to pick up another bag of flour because you have a whole bunch of bullets. You know, whatever you want to use for bartering, you need to consider that as in this event is going to be huge. And then, like we were mentioning, if you're in Arizona, consider losing all of your power. What are you going to do? Like, how are you going to stay safe in that environment?
Yeah.
You got to think about those things. What if you live, you know, in Alaska and in the winter and you lose all of your power? Like, how are you going to prepare? So you got to think about those things of heating and cooling that go along with staying alive after an EMP. And then sanitation and waste. You still got to poop somewhere.
That's the thing, too. A lot of people don't think about that. Like, when the water stops flowing.
Yeah. Then you don't have any pressure. Then you don't flush your toilets. Then the poop builds up in your toilet. Like, you've got to think about the sanitation and keeping your, like, all of your family healthy without those utilities.
Yep.
So bucket, 5-gallon buckets with a toilet and liner, bags, place to store it.
Cat
maybe
holes.
dig a latrine. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Who knows?
So anyways, those are a lot of things to think about because
that's a
this
lot.
is one of the worst events that could possibly happen.
That's rough.
But hopefully that helps.
Hopefully.
But if you want to organize it all, there is something that I can offer you.
Okay.
It's from Mad Gear, the name you trust for preparedness. They have a Ready Plan app. And they also have, you know, the other devices. But just like our renowned contingency planner, it helps you prepare for hurricanes, power outages, and unexpected emergencies. The Ready Plan app digitizes the essential process. Organize every detail from specific condition responses and communication plans to evacuation routes and gear checklists, all securely stored and accessible on your device. Plus, easily share your plans and coordinate with family or preparedness group, ensuring everyone is on the same page or on the same app, right? This is more than an app. It's your dynamic guide to readiness, built with the same step-by-step logic found in your physical planners, which are very important in this scenario.
And interestingly enough, in this month's battle box.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Very cool.
Developed by the family and veteran-owned Mad Gear, Ready Plan ensures your critical information is always within reach and readily shareable. Don't wait for a crisis. Visit your app store and download Ready Plan by Mad Gear today. Ready, set, plan. Ready Plan by Mad Gear. Redefining preparedness for when SHTF. Use our code for a discount.
Do it. Get
Dude, their
that
stuff's
Mad Gear
awesome.
stuff.
You can get, like I said, the paper, the backup plan, plus you can do it on your app.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Either way, pretty cool. So, guys, listener challenge this week. Test your EMP readiness. And this is not easy to do, but there's a couple things you can do here. And the number one thing is a blackout drill. And
dude, they're like,
you know,
it's crazy what you can learn from that.
Oh, for sure. 24 hours, no electricity, no phones, no computers or lights, anything. Live off the grid for 24 hours. See how it goes.
See what you are most dependent on.
Yep. You could also do a Faraday check. If you have Faraday bags or Faraday cages, do a check like Cam mentioned. Test them. Make sure they're working like you expect them to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to do it. Just do a test so that you know that it's actually working. And then do a vehicle audit. You know, research your car's EMP vulnerability and then have a backup plan for all of that. This is pretty, you know, the EMP, it's talked about so much in the prepper community. And it's a really important thing to understand because if it does happen, it's one of the worst situations.
It really
is bad. So this is just a listener challenge to try and get more ready for if this actually does happen, which
I like
is a
the
little
blackout
scary.
one. That's a really
It
good
is
one to
good.
do.
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. We love you. Anything else, Cam?
No.
On this?
Thanks for
No.
keeping us alive.
Thanks
Keep
for
listening.
We're still here doing our thing. Thank you so much.
You keep us alive, we'll keep you alive. That's what I should say.
That's a great quote. It's a
Yeah.
great little motto.
Keep us going.
Log line. All right, guys, stay survived.